What up, guys? Welcome to the Something on Sports podcast featuring Perm. I'm your host, Summ. I'm joined here with my co-host, Perm. Say what's up to the people.
What's up to the people?
You guys may have known this channel before as the Playmakers Lounge. Well, the channel is changing. We're still going to be talking sports.
Rebrand.
Rebrand, baby. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be, doing a podcast. We're going to have a couple times a week host this podcast. We'll also put together some short form content from you, whether it's one of us ranting or whether it's, some more videos like we did before. So we want to start off this podcast. We're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about the draft. We're going to talk about NBA, the playoffs. We're going to talk about some other things here. Maybe Tom Brady. Is he unretiring? What is he going to
Thought
do?
we were done talking about Tom Brady for real.
But let's start it off by talking about the NBA playoffs. And we want to start here by talking about our picks for the conference semifinals, and then we're going to go from the playoffs from there. And so that's guess how we're going to start this first podcast off. So who do you got in the conference finals?
I guess to start out west, from the looks of it, Denver's just they're too much. Obviously, they were going to be too much for LA. I don't care that LA picked up game 4. I don't care how good they looked. To win 4 in a row against the champs, against an all-time great like Joker, and that team that they've assembled over there, I just don't see LA putting up much of a fight beyond what we saw last night. So Denver to me is kind of a lock. And then I look at Minnesota, and right now Ant Edwards might be the best player, playing the best basketball of anybody over the last couple of weeks. And I think Minnesota is going to be a tough out for a lot of teams. So I'm going to go Denver and Minnesota. What about you? What you got?
Well, they can't play in the conference finals because they'll have to play in the conference semifinals. Because
Do they have to play in the semis?
Denver's the
Okay.
seed and Minnesota's the
So
third seed.
in that case, then I'm gonna pick. I'd pick Denver. I think Minnesota is just gonna be too young um, to beat Denver in a 7-game series. So then, I guess if I had to pick the other team, I think the Mavericks are. I think they're gonna beat the Clippers, and the way that that Luka's playing right now, he and Kyrie are just out of this world. And so yeah, let's go Denver and Dallas. A little D&D.
See, I'm kind of torn here.
Because you love PG, like you love playoff P. That's your guy. That's your guy.
It's not that I love playoff P. Because what we were talking the other day about that, and it wasn't that I was saying it was because he's playoff P. It was just more so because of his size and his stature. But
Mhm.
I'm probably going to go with the Clippers on that side. I know that they're down. At the time of shooting this podcast, it's Sunday, so we don't even know what's going to happen in the game today. So I guess you
Yeah.
get a prediction on that game. I'm going to predict that I think the Clippers are going to pull this one out. I had the Clippers. That was my finals team. I had them coming out. So I'm not sure if I'm going to stick with that prediction, but I got them in
You
the.
have to,
What's that?
right? You have to, right?
I guess I kind of do though. But I mean, I haven't said it out loud until now. So you're the only person.
Yeah,
I guess with the power of editing, we'll see if I
you
decide.
over here dry snitching,
Let me stop snitching on myself.
yeah.
And then I got to go Denver. I got to go Denver too. I agree. Like, I don't think that the Lakers are going to do anything. I do want to talk about Ant Edwards a little bit more here later on. But that's a hard one though. I think Minnesota can get them though. Um, you know what? We're gonna be controversial. We're going with the Timberwolves, baby. I got
Okay.
the
I'm
Timberwolves.
not mad at it.
I got the
I had to
Timberwolves
toss it
in
around.
the conference finals.
Okay. I'm not mad at that at all. That's so you've got the Clippers and the Timberwolves.
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
Okay. That'd be a fun, man. That's fun. And I went polar opposite then, right? So I went Denver and the Mavs.
In the Mavs, yeah.
And to me, like I look at the Clippers Mavs series, they're 4-5, right? It could go either way, to be honest with you. I just am not the Clippers, man. They're one of those teams that like I can't pick them until they prove to me that they can win. I just can't because I've done it in the past. I've seen teams that they put together. I'm like, oh, they have it. They've got all the pieces. They're good inside. They've got perimeter shooting. They've got a floor leader that can get them in and out of their offense. And and then they just break your heart. So I can't pick the Clippers just personally. But that would be a fun series to watch, the Clippers and the T-Wolves. And if that were the case, I mean, you kind of have to. I mean, I know that the T-Wolves would be a higher seed, right?
Yeah,
But hmm,
yeah, they'd be a higher
I
seed.
but I personally I might have to favor the Clippers in that matchup just because I think Cat's soft.
Yo, I kind of favor, yeah, Cat soft. So is Gobert. So
Right. Yeah.
they got
Just
two
two
big,
soft ass bigs. Right. Right.
softest bigs in the NBA history.
Yeah.
The Houston Rockets, they got the Twin Towers, they got
Yeah.
Robert
Yeah.
and Akeem Olajuwon, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Charlotte Hornets went and got Larry Johnson. May not be a center, but he was a powerful big man. Got Alonzo Mourning. And who did the Minnesota Timberwolves go get? Rudy. Matter of fact, hey, I got something funny.
Rudy G.
So I was watching the Gilbert Arenas podcast, right?
You
Um,
wildin'.
yeah, and you know how they have a host. I don't know. Have you ever watched this podcast?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. I
you know
watch it all the time.
the host is I think Michael Thompson's son.
Hmm.
Um, and he was reading a quote from Rudy Gobert because the NBA players voted behind closed doors on the most overrated player in the league. And Rudy
Oh.
Gobert got like 18% of the vote. He was like number one with 18% of the vote. So they interviewed Rudy Gobert and they asked him his thoughts on being rated the most overrated player in the league. And so your boy from Gilbert Arenas' podcast starts reading Rudy Gobert's post, and he's like, "The players in the league," and he's talking with that horrible French accent.
Damn.
You know what I'm saying? But it wasn't Rudy, and it was just
Roasted him.
it was funny as hell though. But yeah,
Roasted him.
they got two. Yeah, it was funny. And he read the whole paragraph like that. I was dying. I was
Hey,
dead.
real shit though. Like if I'm fucking Rudy Gobert, all of y'all can just get on my bag, really, because DPOY, right? You can say whatever you want about overrated, yada yada, DPOY. He got the max contract because that is in the collective bargaining agreement. You get a postseason award, you're eligible for a
Right,
supermax, right?
right,
And so, like, I don't. It's hilarious because he's a goofy ass looking giraffe ass looking ass motherfucker up and down the floor. I saw the dude Euro step, man. You're 7 feet 1,000 and you're Euro stepping on like 6'5" guards. Get out of here, bro. But at the same time, I mean, he does protect the rim, and it's a trait that you just can't teach, right? Like you just guys that when you get to the NBA, either you are a rim protector or you're not. They're not creating rim protectors,
right,
you
right,
know, in the league.
right.
So I don't know. It's funny. It's hilarious. I'm gonna have to go back and find it so I can see the Le France and the Le Stats and then I'm a big pussy and Draymond Green choked me out for no reason. That shit was crazy, by the way.
Yo, Draymond, because we're probably going to be all over the place, y'all, here for the first few podcasts because we're in the middle of basketball. You know what I'm saying? Basketball season. We're in
Yeah.
the playoffs. We just got to draft. You know what I'm saying? So, there's probably these segments for the first few episodes are going to be packed with a lot of talking about all kinds of different things that we haven't got the opportunity to speak on yet. But yeah, man, when Draymond choked out Rudy Gobert,
Silly, dude.
what were your thoughts?
Here you go again. Like, was I surprised? Nah. But me and you, we're a different generation of basketball fan, right?
Right.
So I've watched Rick Mahorn do that shit. It was a regular Tuesday night, Tuesday on TNT. It wasn't really anything to me. He just choked him and dragged him. And I mean, what the fuck you want me to do? Like I seen if you haven't seen the highlight clip of Kermit Washington breaking Rudy T's face, like I don't
Right,
really.
right.
And compared to what Draymond did to uh what's his face that plays over in Washington now? What's that
Oh,
little clown ass
Jordan
dude?
Poole.
Yeah, what he did to Jordan Poole, man, that shit gives me nightmares, dude.
He
Like I
said,
see that video, I'm like, God, I got like PTSD. I thought I was finna get socked.
sent him to the
You
shadow.
ever, yeah, you ever see a fight, right? Like when you were coming up, you ever like watch a fight and you just like regret seeing it? Like you just watch somebody get the shit beat out of them, and you're just like, man, I wish that I didn't witness that. I feel bad for that person.
I had to give you those paws when we was younger. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Y'all gonna let boy lie to y'all. Don't let this man lie to y'all.
When I had to put the knuckles on you. You remember that
Don't
shit.
let this man lie to y'all. Not a day in his life.
It's all good. You know what I'm saying? I had to hook up when we was kids and shit, but
Yeah,
it's all good.
this boy Hulk. Yeah, all right. Incredible Hulk. You over here drinking noon, bruh. Put them Incredible Hulks down. You don't need no hypnotic
Uh,
at 12 o'clock in the afternoon.
I'm just telling them the truth. You're making wild accusations. You know what I'm saying? Well,
Uh,
I'm
this
stating
dude said he put the
facts.
paws on him. He crazy. Nah, the Draymond thing, I thought like I look at it like as far as just the league, because it's a soft league now, right? Like
Right.
they want suburban kids watching it, they want moms watching with their daughters and stuff. So that stuff like they had to figure out a way to punish him. And I don't have any doubt that the league had that conversation with him, not just the Warriors. That look, bro, we are trying to globalize this game in a way, not just like the planet, but we want a different demographic of people to watch, and that those type of antics turn those demographics off. They're not going to watch. The advertisers aren't going to pay. And I think maybe Draymond is one of the last remnants of the old NBA. You know,
You know,
I guess that's what I think.
I get frustrated when I hear like the younger generation or even like maybe the generation that's just underneath us, so like your
The
35 year
Kobe's.
old or your 32-year olds,
Mhm.
um, when they talk about basketball and how that wasn't basketball back in the day, because just like you're
Yeah.
saying, I grew up watching 80s and 90s basketball, so it's like I remember when
Mhm.
they was fighting,
Yeah.
we've known each other forever. So it's like I remember when they was killing Michael Jordan when he was going to the lane and all that stuff.
It was a physical game.
Right. And that's been part of the game since the inception, though. So it's like when you're thinking about the game in the 40s or the 30s or the 60s or the 70s, it's always been physical. There's always been
Yeah.
hand checking. There's always been, hard fouls.
Well, I think it changed a little bit, right? So when the game was first onset, it wasn't a physical basketball game at all, right? It just wasn't.
it
What
was,
happened though, the
it still
ABA
was a
was physical.
Well, but the NBA was still physical because when you're watching those videos, like those old school Wilt videos or Koozie videos, there's still
Yeah.
hands all over people. So
Yeah.
they're still handsy. So although it
Yeah.
was punching, it wasn't bad boy Pistons physical, there was still if you can put your hand on somebody, just like anybody else, you can control where they go. You know what I'm saying?
The
It's like
freedom of movement, yeah,
right.
wasn't the same. I feel like the contact though, the level of contact, like it peaked, right? So it was going up, ratchet, 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 and then it hit, 80s, 90s, Heat,
70s
Knicks,
ratchet.
bullshit. And the
70s
Heat,
ratchet. 70s was just as ratchet. That's when Kermit
yeah,
punched
seven. You're
Gucci.
right. 70s, 80s, 90s. Yeah. That's when it kind of hit the crescendo. But even in the 70s and 80s, though, the points were up. So even while you had this physical style of basketball, the freedom of movement still existed. Teams were still scoring 110, 115 a game. It
Right.
was the 90s when they just slowed it down to a fucking crawl. And that, I mean, do I want to not, do I want to say it wasn't basketball? I don't want to say that. I just think it had gone so far that the league had to do something. They just needed to. And I'm glad they did. It's a funner game to watch now than it was in the late 90s.
But I don't necessarily attribute the slower paced basketball in the 90s to all the way to the, you know what I'm saying, the physicality or fouling or whatever. I attribute it to the style of play. And so,
Jordan.
yeah, Jordan, you know what I'm saying? It was the whole Jordan, Dominique, all the teams had a dominant player and they were running all that one-on-one solo basketball. And so that's going to slow the score down because it's not, obviously you
Yeah.
give the ball, dribble, 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 or something like that. It's going
It was
to
hero ball, right? It was hero ball with teams that didn't have heroes.
right,
You
right.
know, like
Right.
like if you want to play that style of basketball, you have to have a guy that on any given night can give you 50. Um, and a lot of teams just didn't have that. And then two, the other thing is teams that didn't have that, you want to limit the possessions, right? You want to be efficient on your possessions, right? So like Larry Brown style of basketball, the Detroit Pistons of the 2000s, the late 90s 76ers. You slow the game down, you limit possessions, and then on your offense, you use as much of that clock as you can. You run efficient offense to get the best shot that you can, i.e., Richard Hamilton off 1,000 screens, right? And so I think that teams that didn't have those dominant ball, legit bucket getters had to revert to that kind of style of basketball as well. And there was such a dearth of that type of player in the late 90s, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I guess I do, but that a lot of the games had just slowed down. Plus, you got to take into account too, we had expansion, right? So we added two teams, which watered down the pool. And then right away, I think that the talent pool was affected a little bit by that too. So I think it's a lot of things. Like you were saying, you have the style of basketball and then some other factors too.
I want to be on record saying that I don't feel like expansion teams water down the league in the way in which people try to make it seem like they do. Because yeah, you're going to get a couple other games. You're going to get like 4 games, 4 to 5 games against an expansion team. They're in your division, maybe then 6 games because four, division games and then 2 from the other conference. So it's only 6 games. And so
I think it's depth. I don't think it's. I think
okay,
it's depth because
let me,
you're spreading the talent out.
let me finish up. I was going to go there next. I was going to say, because yes, you get to draft off the other team, but the other team gets to keep their like top 9 to 10 players. And so it's
Mm.
not like, you're getting a situation to where you're pulling the fourth best player off this team and the third best player off this team and the second best player off this team.
But you've got free agency. Like
Yeah,
there are other moves. It's not just that draft. The next year that those rosters get to pull from other teams. They get stars to come, right? And then you have the
okay.
common draft.
But who did? But what star went there?
So think about like Damon Stoudemire, right? That's a guy that could have gone to a different team. He could have gone to the Knicks, right? But instead he goes to Toronto. Vince, T-Mac, right? Like these guys that went to an extra team. It's not that it was bad. It's just there were more teams for talent to go to. And
I mean,
so
I get that. I get that there's more. I get what you're saying. There's more teams for talent to go to, but it's still not going to affect the fact that, okay, we start this expansion team, or we start this expansion, but the youth of the NBA was already going, so the Knicks were already going to be good. Whether they started an expansion or not, the Knicks were going to be where they were at. They were going to be the second best team in the East all those years to the Bulls. The Bulls were
yeah.
going to be good no matter what happened with the expansion team, so they were going to be a difficult out for whatever team played them. Cleveland, the Cavaliers were going to be a difficult team for anybody to play because they already had Mark Price, Brad Daugherty, all these other players. So
I don't think that was the same team. Like that Cavs team when those two teams were
but they were a
so
playoff.
like Charlotte. Okay, so no, so like Charlotte was an expansion team when Mark Price was still on the Cavs. Charlotte had been an expansion, but like the other two, like the Raptors, I think Mark Price was gone by the time. I think that Cavs team was decimated by that time. Gerald
They were
Wilkins
still a
gone.
decent team because they had Terrell Brandon then, and then they would have had Mills and Fields, Chris Mills and Chris Fields, or you know what I'm saying? They
They
would have.
were a middling team. They were trying to sell tickets still and be
But what I'm
relevant.
saying is these are playoff teams, and all these playoff teams were
You don't
still.
think that they could have benefited from having a Vince Carter
They
instead
would
of him
have
going up
drafted
to?
Vince Carter would
Why do
have,
you think that?
because they didn't get worse because of expansion, and they didn't get better because of
How
expansion.
much better were the Cavs that good in the
They were a playoff
after
team.
like Gerald Wilkins? Because when Gerald Wilkins went to the Knicks, that was when the Cavs were kind of done, right?
Cavs were
And they
good.
had to rebuild. They weren't terrible, but I feel like they weren't a playoff team anymore because they had lost Brad Daugherty, they had lost Mark Price,
Yeah, but they
Craig
still
Elo was who
they
was on that team. Terrell Brandon is a name I haven't heard in a while, dude. That's a
but
man. I don't know where you pulled that one.
they ended up getting yeah, they were still a playoff team. They went to
Yeah.
so what I'm looking at here, they went to the playoffs from
What
91,
year was that?
uh
91?
91, 92, 92, 93, 93, 94, 94, 95, 95, 96, and then they missed the playoffs one year in 96, 97, but still went 42 and 40. And then in 97, 98, they went 47 and 35 and they went to the playoffs again. So in the time span that we're talking about, this was a playoff team, so it wasn't going to affect them either as well. Because yeah, they ended up getting Sean Kemp, if you remember, at one
Oh,
point.
they did get Sean Kemp. Remember
Sean
Sean Kemp in those uniforms, like fat Sean
Yeah,
Kemp?
yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
I mean, they had a decent squad because they had Daniel Marshall, they had Dan Marley, they had Bobby Fields, Bob Sura, Chris Mills, Terrell Brandon, John Amaechi. So they just had a
Where'd they
bunch.
get Bobby Sura from? Did they pick him up from Phoenix?
I feel like they drafted Bobby Sura.
Did they? And then he went to Phoenix from Cleveland?
Yeah, I feel like Cleveland
Where
drafted.
did Bobby Sura get drafted? How high did he get drafted?
Got
Was he like first rounder?
he
I
got
feel like
drafted.
Bobby Sura was pretty good.
Yeah, Bobby Sawyer was decent. He got drafted 17th overall by Cleveland. Then he went to Golden State, Detroit, Atlanta, and then Houston. So I think when you said Phoenix, you were thinking of Bob Marley because I just mentioned him before, Bob Sura.
Dan Marley.
Yeah, Dan, Thunder Dan. But they had a decent team. I mean, like they put together, decent teams, but there was a bunch of decent teams, and not to regress and to make this about Cleveland, but it's just I don't feel like the expansion hurt the NBA the same way that
I don't
people
think it hurt it.
not hurt, but I don't feel like it made it
I think it was
easy.
good for it.
I don't think it made it easier because all the teams that were the same were going to be the same. Cleveland wasn't getting Vince Carter.
Oh, I
Cleveland
don't think
was
that
gonna
I
get
definitely wasn't saying it made it easier. I just think what my point was as far as the expansion is you didn't have the what's the word that I'm looking for? You didn't have the teams weren't as talent dense, right? Because you had to spread them out. You had Charlotte that came on early in the 90s, and then you added two others, Vancouver and Toronto. So you're talking about what is that, 26 roster spot? No, 36 roster spots, right? That's 36 players that are now added to a league. And so I don't think it was detrimental. I just think it was a factor in the style of play, why teams started playing a little bit differently defensively because they just didn't have the talent,
So let me look at
is
some
all.
1995 expansion draft.
We are getting way off topic now, though.
I know, but
We're
good
way
conversation.
off topic
Good,
now.
good conversation. You know what I'm saying?
Honestly, I would honestly, to be honest with you, I don't even know what we're talking about anymore. I kind of like to get back to the conference
All
finals
right, all right,
because at
all
this
right.
point, we're just talking about playoff expansion of the '90s. Like, who gives a fuck? Like,
Yo,
nobody
let me
cares.
say one last thing to
We
this.
rabbit hole this shit.
Let me say one last thing to this point though.
Yeah, okay.
The expansion draft, when we talk about talent getting dispersed, the best player drafted in the expansion draft was BJ
You're
Armstrong.
focusing on the draft itself. You have to understand that it's a long-term impact. It's not
No, I
just the
get that.
one
I get
year.
that. I get that.
You're
But what I'm
spreading
saying,
out 36 roster spots over a course of years and years and years.
I
And so
get that.
free agency,
But what I'm saying is that the of initial effect, because that was the point that I was trying to make initially, was that I'm sick of people bringing a point of it was easier for Jordan to win during the expansion area
is
because
that a point people make?
yeah, that's what I'm.
Wow, I haven't
That's,
heard that.
so I assumed that you had heard that because that's what I'm
Nah,
speaking.
I haven't heard that. That's
All
crazy.
this that I'm saying is coming.
That's where you were saying it was easier. I was like, what's he talking about?
Yeah. So
Easier. Like,
I would have assumed that you would have heard
okay.
this rhetoric
Nah,
of
I haven't heard that.
this is a conspiracy, and I'm
That's
like,
some of that LeBron stand shit in it.
yeah, I like LeBron too, though, man. So I'm
You
not really
know, dude, here's the thing about these LeBron stands, dog. We were the biggest LeBron fans.
right,
We were the biggest ones. Like, we were way bigger than them. When that dude came up in high school, are you kidding? We were freaking the fuck out over LeBron
right.
James.
Do you
We
remember?
could not wait.
Do you remember when
I
LeBron?
don't listen to these kids.
You remember when LeBron came out? Nigga, we had to go to the bar every night to go watch those games because they didn't have
Mhm.
like the NBA package. So, like, to
Yeah.
any if you're young and you're watching this, you couldn't get the NBA package and get every game at that point. So, you had to go to the bar every night to go watch LeBron play and shit. And so we would
I
go to
remember we went and saw the Heat Bull series over at a bar over here locally, and we watched all those games. That was a great series because we thought the Bulls were gonna for 3.5 quarters, man. 3.5 quarters. Every game, it looked like the Bulls were finna take it, and it just didn't. But no, back to your point though, like I didn't know that that was a thing that people were saying that Jordan. So now I see why you're so worked up about it. You had to make
right.
your last point. You're like, fucking Jordan's the shit.
Well, I mean, yo, I'm not here to have the Jordan LeBron debate today. There's no need to pull out every big gun on the first
There's
podcast.
no there's no debate between you and me. Like
Right,
we're
right, right,
probably on the same page.
right.
Yeah, because obviously LeBron's a goat.
So
Ah, you see your face right now.
because I know that's not what you believe in your heart. I know for a fact
Hey,
that's not.
that chase down block, dude. That chase down block against the Warriors was one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my life, yo. That was crazy. That whole comeback against the 72-73 win. It to me, it made it close. It made it close. That was something to see, man.
That block was nice, but what we're not going to do is act like Jordan didn't fucking hit a shot to make his team go down one, run down the court, steal the ball from fucking Karl Malone. Karl fucking Malone, not even just a regular person.
I'm picturing the whole play in my
Karl
head right now.
Malone, and then he drove down the court, yak him, game
Hey,
winning
4-5 in my hip, Brian Russell.
series, game series blouses. You
Yeah, it
know
was
what
a
I'm
wrap,
saying?
yo.
Yeah. So I mean, as great as people try to, as that LeBron play was great, even though it was goaltending, it was a great play. His arm touched the rim. Your arm can't touch the rim and the ball at the same time.
Come
I'm just saying.
on.
I'm not.
Come on.
It's
We call
not.
it traveling now on every play, too. Come
I'm just saying.
on.
I'm just saying it was goaltending. It was. It was by the
I'd
rule of.
have to watch it. I've seen it a lot, and you're the first person I've ever heard say that it was goaltending. You're the first one. I've watched that play a lot, and I've heard a lot of people talk about it.
Watch it, and then you'll see his arm is on the rim as he's blocking the ball at the same time. That's goaltending. You can't touch the rim and the ball at the same time as a
I'll have
defender.
to watch it again.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm serious.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't want to believe it. I'm like, it's true.
It's not that I don't want to believe it. You're literally the only person that's ever said that to me. And so I just have to, I got to watch it. I got to watch it. It was a great play.
It was a good
But
play.
I'm not one of those guys that if we're going to have like, to have the GOAT conversation that I've got to go tit for tat, play for play. Like that's not, to me, I don't think that's how you define greatness, to be
No,
honest with you, is a tit for tat, like, pull my dick out and we're going to measure every pubic hair. Like, to me, I think the greatness, it's subjective,
but I
right?
feel
That's
like,
why the GOAT conversation is a conversation to begin with.
but I feel like there's things in the GOAT conversation as you're having it that you can't ignore. So I'm not the play for play. I agree with you 100%. I just brought up the Jordan shit because I feel like it was a better play. All right, guys, as you guys seen there a second ago, we ran out of time basically on the Zoom call, so we had to restart this B up. And then we had the most heated and epic ever, and I forgot to hit record. So y'all are gonna miss one of the probably most epic discussions that this channel has ever had, and I'm not just saying that. So from there, we went and picked our Eastern Conference Finals members. He picked the Miami Heat.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler finna have a quadruple double for the series, man. I'm telling you.
Y'all won't get that why it's so funny, but it's hilarious. So I'm gonna go ahead and let him start. Who are you picking for the Eastern Conference Finals?
Uh, it's funny because I'm just gonna dive right down the same rabbit hole and tell them straight up, I don't give a fuck who wins these second round games and goes to the conference finals. Because Boston, I have no confidence in Boston at all. And I'm gonna say it again because I don't give a shit. You have an opportunity when you're playing a team. Let me preface this with you have aspirations to finally get over the hump and become a dominant basketball team, the number one seed. You have an opportunity. You're up 1-0. You got game 2 on your home court. The team you're playing just lost their number one player. And you have to, as a team that has not provided any confidence to their fan base or to the league in general over the years, and your ability to win and dominate the way we all have hoped and predicted they were going to, you have to win that game 2 game. They did not. They got embarrassed on their home floor. They did come out. They won game 3, blah, blah, blah. Do I think Boston's going to win this series? I do. Miami, they're a good team. They're a talented roster. But if you don't have your best player, I'm sorry. I just look at it like you have to put your foot on their neck. And Boston didn't. And that's just a microcosm of who Boston is. They're a good team. I have to pick them for the conference finals. I would also pick Philadelphia. I think Philadelphia just has, if Embiid is healthy, they've got the best player in the conference, hands down. I think Maxey is such a gifted scorer, and he's only getting better. And the two of them, finally, Embiid has somebody that he could actually play with, right? Like he's had some good players alongside him, but this is the first guy that they can really work off each other. So I like Philly, but again, Philly has some of the same question marks historically over the last 4 or 5 years that Boston has. So who cares, bruh? Who the fuck cares? Boston, Philly, that's me. That's what I pick.
So you guys don't know why I'm over here smiling. Oh, while my smiling is smiling over
Because
here.
I was gonna do it again. I don't give a shit. I'm gonna say the same thing.
Yo, because we got into it. So I'm gonna hit a few points. Um, although you're knocking Boston for not sweeping Miami, Miami has been to the conference finals how many times in the last 4 years? Miami is consistently playing deep in the playoffs. I get that they don't have Jimmy Butler, but the roster this year is healthier than the roster was last year that they went to the finals with all those free agents. So for me, I don't feel like it's fair for you to just be like Boston shit the bed when it's Miami. It's not like Miami's playing Orlando or Cleveland or some team without any playoff experience in the first round. They're playing Miami Heat, who has been typically the best team to come out of the Heat, out of the East. So even without Jimmy Butler, for me, I see them being able to win at least one game. I just had to touch in on all that because you guys missed this super heatedness. I also want to say that when we think about teams that should dominate, it's not fair to knock Boston when a team like Golden State in 2019.
This is a straw man's argument. There you
Yeah.
go. I knew you were gonna do this. This is a straw man's argument. It's not
When,
apples to apples. This
when,
is
when,
go
when
ahead, go ahead.
Golden State, when Golden
Go
State
ahead.
played the Clippers in 2019, that team led with freaking Lou Williams, you know what I'm saying, and Danilo Gallinari won 2 games against Golden State with Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, and nobody, knocked that team and thought that that team wasn't going to win a championship. So I think that Boston is good enough to beat any team coming out of the West. I just don't know if I think that they will do it. So for me, I have Boston and I have Philly going to the Eastern Conference Finals. We're shooting this on Sunday before the Knicks Philly game. But I just feel like if Embiid can get right, there's no way that Philly should be able to beat the Knicks.
Yeah, and I agree with all of that. You mean that there's no way, yeah, there's no way Philly should not be able to beat the Knicks, right?
Yeah, the Knicks should
Yeah,
beat Philly with a healthy Embiid.
yeah.
And,
Yeah, no,
and
I agree with all that. The only thing, obviously, is your Clippers analogy. Again, and this was something that we debated before when it wasn't recorded, Frick. Um, my thing about that is I don't think that's an apt comparison because I know, right? Boston is still trying to prove something. That Golden State team that gave up 2 games were not trying to prove anything. They were a 3-time champion. We didn't have those questions about them because we'd seen them win rings and we'd seen them get through adversity. We didn't have those questions. We felt like when they lost those games, they're still going to win the series. Not that I don't feel like Boston's going to win this series because again, Jimmy Butler's not playing. My thing is if you're a team that's trying to prove, and look what Miami has done to Boston over the last couple of years, right? Like Jimmy Butler's down, you have to destroy them. Like you cannot let them off the hook in game 2. And to me, that just speaks to the killer instinct of the team. And I just don't know that that team has it. But again, Philly don't have it. New York don't have it. So my pick for the Eastern Conference Finals is nobody gives a shit. CJ, nobody gives a fuck. I don't. I don't.
All right. Well, let me understand this. I think that it's a game of matchups, right? The NBA is a game
Mhm.
of matchups.
Yeah.
And Miami is a matchup nightmare for Boston because their best defenders are able to defend Boston's best offensive players. And I
And
feel
they're
like,
not scared of them. I
right,
think
right.
that's the biggest thing is they're not scared. They're not going to back down. And Boston needs you to
But,
back down when they give you a good punch. And if you stick around, they'll let you back in. That's
but,
Boston.
but in that same respects, Miami is just a matchup nightmare for them because they're a headache. Their best defenders
I don't know
match
if they're a nightmare, dude. They just beat the dog crap out of them yesterday. I don't know if they're a nightmare.
without
What is,
Jimmy,
just
without
because
Jimmy,
they defend?
without Jimmy. Because with Jimmy out there, now you got Jimmy on Tatum. You know what I'm saying? You
Which
got
they beat Miami with Jimmy. I don't think that they're a nightmare. I just think that I don't think that they have matchup problems. I think just Miami just don't quit. They
but
don't have anybody on their team outside of Jimmy that you're really that scared of,
I'm not
right?
I'm not talking about offensively. I'm talking about defensively. I'm saying their players, their best defensive players match up great against Boston's best players. Now this year we get a little bit of a transition because I feel like now when you have your lineups with like Porzingis and Horford and
And that's
fucking
what I think changed.
Brown,
Yeah.
and fucking Tatum. That's a hard lineup to manage because everybody's
Hmm.
fucking big. You know,
Yeah.
you have Drew
Yeah.
Holiday. You know, I mean, you got this monster lineup. So that's where it's a little different this year versus previous years. But in previous
Mhm.
years, Miami's best defensive players just fall right in naturally in line with Boston's best offensive players, and
Yeah.
they're able to cause matchup problems because Boston's not used to every one of their offensive players having a tough defensive matchup. So when Jaden, like if Tatum's playing somebody whose best player on defense is guarding him, then those are the games Jaylen Brown gets off, you know, in previous years. But they can't do that when they're playing Miami because everybody's a tough matchup. So
Not
that's
everybody. Tyler Hero's not a tough matchup, dog. Their whole roster's not tough. What they do is they play good, solid team
Tyler
defense, and
Hero's
they have
Tyler
three
Hero's not
exceptional
Tyler Hero's
defenders.
not guarding Jaylen Brown. So that
But
isn't
you're
that.
saying everybody, and that's just not the case. They have three exceptional defenders. They play great team ball, and Spoelstra does not let them quit. They will not back down from anyone.
Right,
And to
right.
me, I don't think it's a matchup issue, especially when Porzingis came on. Like he changed the dynamic of that
Being
team
as
because now they have a
I'm
big who can
saying is Porzingis.
stretch.
That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying Porzingis made it better or easier for Boston.
Yeah,
Once you
I'm not
add,
disputing that.
yeah. So I'm not
Yeah, I
saying.
was I was agreeing with you.
Oh, I thought you were saying that.
No, no, I
Uh,
was saying that Porzingis made the matchup for Boston a lot easier. I
right.
do think that Miami provides matchup problems for everybody. If we're going to use the word nightmare, I would think that they're a nightmare for probably the majority of the league. I think maybe a team like Denver, just because the unique way that Jokic works the pivot, right? Like what do you do with that guy? Right?
I
But
think
I think that like the matchup issues that Miami provides is not unique to Boston. Um, but I think that Boston might be uniquely equipped to solve it more uniquely than any other team, maybe outside of Denver. But with that said, again, I don't have confidence in them because they don't have the killer instinct.
so.
You know what I'm saying?
Let me ask you this: Do
Yeah.
you think do you think that Miami should have been swept by Boston?
I mean, after game one and they lost Jimmy, yeah, I do think. I think so. I think that Boston should have won game two. And here's the thing: I don't even know that necessarily a sweep because if you go back and you lose a game in Miami, I can forgive that for a team that's trying to on the up, right? Like I can forgive you going to Miami. Miami's a crazy place to play, but you're at your crib, you got to win that one. Is how I look at it. That's just me personally. I think you have to win it.
So
And
what?
so does that mean that Boston can't win a title? No. But if you want me to pick them to win the title, I'm not going to do it. I have to see them do the things that you see typical title contenders or title teams do.
Okay, so I have two parts to this next part. This next piece. So Denver has only been leading for 42 minutes in this series against.
So here you go. This is a funny
No,
thing.
no,
Like
no,
you
no, no,
like
no,
to no no
no,
no. Let me finish
no, no, no,
because what
no,
you like to do is you
you
like
don't
to
even
hear
like
a
my
thing
point. No, no,
and
no,
then you
stop,
like to
stop, 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 stop,
just
stop, stop,
it
stop.
doesn't even make any
No,
sense. What are we
no,
even
no, no, no,
doing?
no, 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 no. You don't, it's because it's like you don't even know where I'm gonna go. So now you're
It's just
arguing.
funny because you
Yo,
do this all the
so
time. This is just what
yo,
you do.
podcast. So this is why that last shit was so funny. Is because you say three words and this motherfucker ready to interject
No,
and
it's
hey,
it's it's hilarious because this is what you always do. You
no,
take
no,
an apple from another tree and compare it. You're like, this Macintosh apple is not the
I
same.
can't even cook properly because I can't even think about how I was about to word that last
We've
thing.
been cooking for 20 years together, Frick. We've been
30
cooking for 20 years. I know what you finna do, but go ahead. Go ahead.
years, 30 years,
30
my
years we've been doing this. I
30
know what
years.
you finna do, my dude. Go ahead though.
You ruined it. You ruined it. You see what he did? He came in here and he stepped on the whole
I had to because I saw what he
yeah,
was finna do. I got to step on it real
yeah,
quick,
yeah.
but go ahead.
I'm gonna have to mute him here in the future. I'm gonna just talk over him. But we were talking about how Miami should ultimately get swept by Boston. So I just don't think I won't go that direction because I can't remember how I was going to word it. I was about to word that shit
Well, you
perfect.
remember I
You
did
stayed out
rephrase
on
and
that
say
one.
they could lose on the road, right? I don't need them to sweep. I think losing at home, Boston losing at home, I is
Okay.
gross.
So what's the difference in your mind in Boston? Like, let's say Boston wins the first two games at home, loses game 3, and then wins game
Mhm.
4 and 5. What's the difference in that to Boston winning game 1, losing game 2, and then winning game 3, 4, and 5?
Killer instinct, dude.
I don't
It's the
agree.
thing that you always roast LeBron about. When you have an opportunity to close, to like put your foot on an opponent's neck, a wounded animal, you do it. And they didn't. They won game 3 because they had to. You can't lose game 3 and go down 2-1 to the Jimmy Butler-less Miami Heat. You can't do it. They had to win game 3, but they should not have been in a position where game 3 was a must win. Do you see what I'm saying? Championship teams don't put themselves in that position.
I don't feel like game 3
Typically,
must win.
typically. Hmm?
I don't feel like game 3 is a must win either way.
If they lose, like, you know, so they lost. So if they lose game 3 and they're down 2-1 to Miami, what are we talking about right now? Are we
Yeah,
talking about Boston going to the conference finals?
but I still think Boston pulls the series out.
But how good do you feel about them next week or next round? Like if they're down
Hey,
2-1
Philly,
right now to
the
Miami,
Knicks. The Knicks
if
don't.
they're down 2-1 to Miami, what are we talking about, dude?
I mean, it doesn't change my thoughts on are they going to go to the conference finals, because next round they're playing
I don't.
the winner of the Orlando or Cleveland series. I think
Yeah,
Miami. I think
that's
Miami.
fair, and I think that speaks more to the conference, though, right?
But I think Miami, with an injured Jimmy Butler, is still a better team than Cleveland or Orlando. And so,
Really?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Then Cleveland?
yeah. I think Bam Adebayo is better than Donovan Mitchell. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
then, yeah, I do.
I could. I don't feel a strong way about that. Yeah.
And then I think that Tyler Hero is as good as what Garland.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I
really, man,
think he just plays in a different market. I think if Darius Garland played in Miami with Jimmy Butler, that we would see him in a better light than we see Tyler Hero.
I think, I think, I think that Darius Garland's a good basketball player. He's a solid basketball
Mhm.
player. I think that Tyler Hero is probably one of the most underrated players in the league. I know a lot of people don't feel that. A lot of people think he's overrated, but I feel
Yeah,
like
so I think he's properly rated, to be honest with
you
you.
know where I was going to go next with that. If everybody else thinks he's overrated,
Yeah.
at some point the motherfucker's going to be underrated. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah. And then at some point he's probably rated accurately.
yeah, I guess that could be the
No,
answer.
I feel you though. Like I don't
So
know about that. I don't know about Miami being without Jimmy being better than Cleveland.
they're at
That's a
least
tough
as
one. No.
good. They're at least as good as them, in my opinion. And there's a 4 game difference. So when you're looking at the Eastern Conference, there's a 4 game difference between Miami as the AC and the Knicks as the 2 seed, right?
Yeah.
And
But I mean, the Knicks have been without Julius Randle for half the year.
Miami had a lot of injuries this season too.
They had
So
some. They always do.
yeah, right. So what I'm saying
You could
is
work that into their schedule.
I don't feel like Miami is a typical 8 seed because they were dealing with a lot of
I'd
injuries,
agree with that.
you know? So
But when they lose Jimmy Butler, they're an 8 seed. And my thing is, again, it's championship medal. It's killer instinct. The thing that separates the good from the great, right? And if you're trying to prove that you're great, you have to do that thing that hungry dogs do, which is they see the wounded animal and they finish it. And that's not what Boston did. Boston won game 3 because they could not go down 2-1 to a wounded Miami team. They just could not. We would be killing them right now. Deservedly so. If they were down 2-0 to the Jimmy Butler-less Miami Heat, we would be destroying them. And so, like, I don't think, to me, my shade was never at Miami. I don't think Miami's a bad team. My thing is
this nigga doesn't
your
like
aspirations versus what you're doing, and how do those two things match up? And so if I'm going to have confidence in Boston, I need them to do things that give me confidence, and losing game 2 doesn't do that.
man. All right, so we'll go ahead and move forward on to the
So
next
you're
topic,
confident then. You're confident in Boston.
that they're going to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Just in as well, I mean, shit, me too. But just in
Yeah.
general, are you
I mean,
confident in that basketball team?
you kind of have to be confident that Boston's going to make the finals.
The league finals
I mean,
or the conference? Well, because
I
yeah, Philly's a mess, right?
Philly's a mess. The Knicks are a mess without Randall. I don't think that the Knicks can beat Boston without Randall.
Giannis is going to descend from the heavens. Hey, Tone hit me up the other day, and what did he say to me? Something about Giannis getting this Nike deal, and he got his mom a deal. Did you hear that?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Tone hit me, sent me a random text. Oh, it's on my phone. Yeah, he sent me a random text the other day talking about he trying to get like Giannis and get his mom a shoe deal and shit.
Damn, that's ball.
Anyway, but like, yeah, Giannis is going to descend from the heavens. He's going to take over the East again, and all will be well in the NBA. That's what we're waiting for. Greek Jesus.
On that note, over the weekend, the NFL hosted what they call a draft, and during
What
said
they call a
draft,
draft.
and during said draft, players were chosen, and they go to play for team.
People
So
did things.
yeah, you know what I'm saying. So what do you think? Who do you think were the winners of the draft? Who do you think won the draft?
So winning the NFL draft, I think, is kind of a misnomer. First off, I don't think we know who won the draft for years.
Right,
You
right.
know, what some teams did that I really like. I really like what Pittsburgh did. And I think that Pittsburgh year in and year out typically does the right thing. I'm still not over the TJ Watt pick because we got Taco Charlton instead. I was so brokenhearted. That was one of the first years that I was actually into breaking down film for college players. And so
And
TJ Watt was like my pet cat, dude. I was just watching him destroy people in college. And so,
remember when we drafted Gavin Escobar over the Honey Badger,
yes,
and we needed
Gavin
Honey
Escobar.
Badger, and we needed
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. 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 Us in tight ends, man, we're not, we've done okay, but we have more misses than we do hits. Yeah, so I like what Pittsburgh did. I like what Pittsburgh did. I mean, it's easy to go like your favorite players in the draft, right? I also like what the Colts did. I thought the Colts had a pretty good draft too. I like the AD Mitchell pick. I thought that was a really good pick. I think he's going to be a really good player.
Yo, when we already kind of talked about this. So again, we recorded something. I
Mhm.
want to go a different direction. I'm gonna say that I think that the Bears won the draft. I'll get back to that for a second. But as I sit back here and think, I feel like the number one pick in the draft that's going to have the biggest bearing on any team is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs and that damn receiver they drafted from Texas.
Xavier Worthy. Yeah.
So the Chiefs are going to be
Yeah.
a problem, man, because he looks like he can catch. He got hands. I watched a bunch of
Yeah.
film,
He's
and,
competitive.
and he's fast. He's big, bro.
Yep. He competes.
That pick right there for Kansas City, I think, is worth 3 draft picks. I know that it sounds like it's a lot, but Kansas City had so many issues. Their only issue this year was the receivers. You know, just think about
Mhm.
if they would have had reliable receivers all year long, Kansas City probably would have went 14-3, 15-2, probably just ran to the playoffs. But for
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes, them niggas was dropping everything. You know, Scantling's
Mhm.
already gone. What's old boy's name from the Giants? He was awful. He was dropping everything. Um,
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
I can't remember his name. He was
Yeah,
awful.
it's a forgettable name.
Yeah. He was awful.
Yeah, I know
Uh,
what you're talking about.
and then Rice, you don't know what's going on with Rice and his legal issues.
Yeah.
So good
Yeah,
pick.
and they picked up Hollywood Brown too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Oh,
Yeah, there's TikTok videos of him running routes with Pat Mahomes already
Kansas City gonna be a
getting
problem.
loose.
Yeah, Kansas
Yeah,
City
well, I
gonna
mean,
be.
yeah, they're going to be a real problem.
Then I feel the Bears, because for a lot of people they may not consider it, but I'm counting Keenan Allen and Montez Sweat in this draft because they traded draft picks from this draft to acquire those players. So in my mind, you know what I'm saying, it is part of their draft. Yeah, they're not draft picks, but it is part of their draft. It's what they've collected during the draft. And then, that with the receiver from Washington, Caleb Williams, obviously. And they're Chicago looks like they might be nice. If Caleb Williams just doesn't shit the bed, Chicago's a nice
How do
team.
you think he's going to do?
I think he's going to do good. I
Yeah.
think when you look at things like, you know, he was good in Oklahoma, he was good in USC, his wide receivers, one was a seventh round draft pick, one was a free agent, I believe. So it's not like he had like, these top talent wide receivers. He just had decent wide receivers for USC. I feel like he's good. Their defense was awful. Like I think people, when they think about Caleb Williams last year, everybody thinks that Caleb Williams in USC should have won a national championship. They should have done all this competing and they should have done all this and that. But we have to remember when they arrived at USC was in bad shape. It was a bad football team. You can't always just fix things overnight. And
Yeah.
so, they put a band-aid on it for a year, but year two, it's just I mean, what they had in the cabinet showed, what I'm saying? Like their pantry wasn't full. They had a bare pantry, and it just is what it is. Caleb Williams still looked good as fuck last year. Like
Yeah.
the games in the tape, he looked
Yep.
fucking phenomenal, but his team is losing 52 to 51.
Yeah.
So, what I'm
Yep.
saying? I mean, it's not. I was watching some tape on him, and I saw him doing some fucking outrageous shit. Like when, like throws that are phenomenal is when you see the quarterback scrambling and they're off one foot and they're making these crazy throws, you know what I'm saying? Boom. But when you're doing it the other way and you're fucking running to the left and then you're
Mhm.
all balanced and you're all like bam, just dropping dimes like this and they're
Yeah.
just straight line passes, bro, you can't teach that shit. You can't teach that.
No.
And it's just like it's that Patrick Mahomes skill set that I can see a little more of what they've been saying all these years because I'm watching his throwing motions and I'm watching his progressions and I'm watching how these plays are breaking down versus just he hit the open receiver. He hit the open. No, it's how he's getting the ball to these open receivers. It's crazy, dude. He's gonna be solid.
Yeah, I
Um,
think he's going to be really good, especially coming in. He's a soft landing. You get a consummate professional like Keenan Allen, an explosive talent like DJ Moore, and then you bring in Roma Dunze. Um, yeah, their offensive line they've been working on for a couple of years. It's a soft landing spot, I think, for him. I think he's going to do well. That division, Detroit's ready. They picked up Terry and Arnold. That's
Green
a
Bay
that's
is
a
ready too.
big pickup.
Green Bay
That's
is
a
ready too.
yeah. That's a for me Detroit. That was a big pickup. Getting the trade down to the Dallas spot at 24. They picked up that cornerback from Alabama. I don't know if you got to watch any Terry and Arnold film. That dude in the LSU game, they had him matched up. LSU's got the double threat wide receivers, right? So you got Malik Neighbors, he's your big play threat. Then you have Brian Thomas, right? He's your number two. They had him matched up on Brian Thomas in the LSU game, shut him down. Like you forgot Brian Thomas was in the game, right? But Malik Neighbors are getting loose. Crazy work. So what do? Switch him. They just move him over. Say, no, we're gonna put him on Neighbors. What does Neighbors do the rest of the game? Terry Arnold is a really, really good corner. And if Dallas had sat pat at 24 instead of moving back, collecting another pick, I think Terry and Arnold would have been a good selection for them. I don't know that they would have picked him, but that would have been a good selection. And so, like, when I look at Chicago, in a vacuum, everything looks great. But like you said, Green Bay's ready. Um, Detroit is ready and Minnesota's ready. Like, I don't know about defensively if they're ready, but offensively, they're going to be putting up points, right? And so, as far as the team
I'm not,
success early on,
I'm not sold on JJ McCarthy like that though.
um, I'm sold on Jay Jettis.
Yeah, but JJ McCarthy's
And yeah, but I'm sold on their quarter or their coach, right? And their outside threats. So last year, Caleb Williams had a wide receiver. Do you remember his name? I don't either, right off the top of my head. He plays in Minnesota right now. It's
Jordan
not Josh
Addison.
Downs.
Jordan Addison.
Yeah, Addison. Jordan Addison. Yeah. Yep. And so now you've got Jordan Addison, you've got Jay Jettis. I think that McCarthy's going to be fine. I think he's the type of guy that if you give him weapons, he's going to be able to run your offense.
Oh, he's got weapons because they got a tight end too. They got
Yeah,
Hawkins. They got
they're a
Hawkins.
good football team. Yeah. They just, they had some injuries, their quarterback got hurt and Jetta got hurt. My fantasy football team was sucking wind after Justin Jefferson got hurt. But yeah, I think Chicago's going to be okay this year. And then in the years to come, I think they're going to be a real problem. We talked about this before too.
Yo,
Michael
yo,
Penix
let's take
Jr.
a breaking point and have this conversation. So if I have a space in my fantasy football league this year, you trying to hop in that shit?
Yeah, for sure. I'll
I
get
just
in as many fantasy football leagues as I can.
already know. I just started a new league last year because I hadn't been really playing. I've been doing
Mhm.
just free leagues because I was trying to quit doing fantasy.
Yeah.
Um, but then last year, everybody hit me up like Steve Jackson and fucking just a bunch of. I don't know if you remember Sean Dean. You probably don't remember Sean Dean from Paysetter.
No.
Uh,
Nah.
but
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Sean Dean. I don't know
Good. That's a
Matt Cruz, but there's a lot of the
okay.
OG homies are in who've been in leagues because you've been in a bunch of leagues that I've ran throughout time. So
Yep.
motherfuckers who've been in these leagues and shit with us are in the league. It's a keeper league, it's a dynasty league. So yeah, man, I drafted with my first pick, I drafted Bijan because it's a keeper league. Might as well get a running back.
Yeah.
And then I don't know how CD Lamb fell to me because he should have been drafted. But motherfucker
Yeah.
boys. But I shouldn't have got CD Lamb because I had like the either 16th or the 17th pick in the second round or something. Shouldn't have got
Okay.
him. I got him. In the third round, I got Travis Etienne, right? So
Uh-huh.
pick. Fourth round, I got Devontae Smith. Fifth round, I took a flyer on Darren Waller. Sixth round, I drafted Jonathan Taylor, seventh or Alvin Kamara, and then in the seventh round, I drafted Jonathan Taylor. So needless to say,
Mm.
my team's stacked. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
drafting for the future, but I'm drafting for after week 3 and 4 because the suspensions and the injury to Jonathan Taylor and Alvin Kamara. And then I
Yeah.
ended
Yeah.
up in like the ninth or 10th or 11th round and shit. I got like DeAndre Swift in like the 13th round. So then I ended up putting a trade together where I traded
Mm.
DeAndre Swift, Jordan Addison, and Kenneth Gainwell for Jamar Chase.
Wow.
So my
Wow.
keepers, my
Wow.
my keepers are Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Bijan Robinson, and anybody. You know what I'm
And
saying?
whoever. Yeah.
Well, because I picked up Kyron Williams as a free agent. So like yeah. Can
Oh,
you
Kyron Williams?
yeah, can you
Yeah,
imagine?
I picked him up too. That dude won my fantasy. He won the Super Bowl for me in one of my
Yeah, yeah,
leagues.
yeah, yeah. Me too. Me too. I
That
mean,
dude went bonkers.
so can you imagine how good my fantasy team is? Because it's a 10-team league. It's not like it's an 8-team league or nothing like that. I'm not playing with novice, but you draft how you draft. You know how you are. So
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna make it 5 players next year. I'm gonna just bully.
Really?
I'm probably gonna bully because I wanted to do dynasty, but I didn't think people would join a dynasty league. If we
Yeah, I mean, people would. I don't think if you were only doing one league, or like if as a person, like if I was only to do one league, I wouldn't do it as a dynasty. But like I'm in a million leagues, so I would do a dynasty league.
Yeah, see, and that's what I wanted to do. If we did a dynasty league with this roster, I'm winning. Well, Sean Dean's team is tough
Hey,
too.
if you can make that dynasty league happen, man, let me know. I'm in on that too.
Yeah, I might put something together for a dynasty league. But yeah, man, if I get this league going, we'll get that shit going and I'll get you to join that. So I guess
Bet.
back to the draft. Since we're Cowboys fans, let's do a quick hit on the Cowboys draft. What do you think about the Cowboys draft?
Um, I feel okay about it. I think they were in a tough spot just with the lack of picks and the fact that they had so many needs. I think they put themselves in a tough spot not re-signing Tyron Smith, and so it made tackle a need. I feel like if you, as an organization, know you're going to move on from such an organizational mainstay like your left tackle that's been there for 15 years, then
Yeah.
you want to plan ahead, right? So you want to get your replacement while he's still there, I would think. But all in all, they traded back. They got a guy that they liked. I'm not a big fan of Tyler Guyton. I feel like he catches a lot. He's only 2 years into that position from tight end, so he's athletically gifted. He gets to his landmarks super quick. He looks great as a puller. He's fantastic, like footwork, quick, speed, all that good stuff. I just don't see, like, for the type of offensive lineman that I like real assholes, right? So like I think it's great that you can move really quickly and all that stuff, but what I want to see from my offensive lineman is a dude that's just nasty and just going to really just finish you off. And I don't know that I ever really saw that with Guyton. But then to be fair, like that's not the only type of offensive lineman that can be successful in the NFL. And so I'm hopeful that he's going to turn out pretty well. He's got all of the athletic gifts to do it. It's just a matter of, is he going to get the teaching and take to that teaching to kind of learn some of that hand fighting and those hand skills? Outside of that, I thought that their draft was great. Getting Cooper Beebe, I thought was a real steal, to kick him inside to play center. I watched him live for a couple of years. I remember watching him last year. I don't remember what game it was. I just flipped on the TV and I'm like, is that fucking Cooper Beebe still? God damn, that dude is good. And he's just like moving people, right? And so I was really excited. I was disappointed that they didn't get like Powers Johnson or one of those guys that were like highly rated center prospects, but I'm happy about Beebe. I really like that it appears for the second year in a row they tried to get very physical as a football team. You and I had talked about this a little bit before, Frick. Buck getting pushed around by San Francisco
Right,
anymore.
right,
Enough
right,
is enough, dude. Enough
right,
is
right.
enough, man.
Enough
I
is
can't.
a motherfucker.
I can't watch this shit anymore, man.
Can't do it.
So
I can't.
yeah.
Yo, let me give you something real quick. So last year, like my whole family's Dallas Cowboy fans. You know that shit. So like I was
Mhm.
born into this shit. Like it wasn't an option. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and so like we do family events here because my whole family, like my mom's whole side of the family lives in Atlanta. So like, we get up, me, my aunt. My aunt is the biggest Dallas Cowboy fan I know. So that's saying a lot when I'm a huge Cowboys fan. This dude Perm's a big Cowboys fan. And I'm like, she got us beat. It's not even close. She's
Yeah.
a Cowboys fan I know. My dad, a huge Cowboys fan. So it's bad when it was the Sunday where the Cowboys were playing the 49ers. And it was a family outing that weekend. So the whole family came over to went over to my parents' house.
Mm.
And it was all my cousins, my aunts, all that stuff. And we had a family dinner and we're watching the Cowboys and the Niners. And before the game starts, my aunt comes in the house and she's like, I'm confident that we're gonna win this one. I looked at my dad and I was like, nigga, I think we about to lose by like 15, 20. You know what I'm saying?
Confident,
like,
yeah.
I'm just, and this is when the Cowboys were like at the height. So like, I think
Yeah.
we'd only lost the one game to the Cardinals, which I don't care what none of y'all say. We didn't have three offensive linemen in that game, bro. Like we didn't have Zach Martin, Tyron
Yeah.
Smith, or freaking Tyler Biadasz. So it's
Yeah.
like, like they rushed for the whole game and they put seven in the secondary. That's a hard game to play. A novice fan, or what I loved it, they should have never came out with the term casual fan, because if we're ever in a debate on any kind of social media, platform, I will go quick to calling you a casual when you say stupid shit.
Yeah.
But I feel like I was just like, I think San Francisco about to beat the dog shit out of us, and I'm sick of
Mhm.
it. I can't do it no more. So sorry. Back to what you were saying about you're glad that we were drafting physical players, because we can't take San Francisco pushing us around anymore.
No, and to piggyback on your Arizona point too, Arizona beats us in
Yeah, they do.
Arizona. It's just what happens. If you're a
I think
Cowboys
it's
fan,
one
you know
time
that.
since 2005.
Yeah, you know that. And so like, I watch a lot of Cowboys YouTubers, very entertaining. I love that community. And so one of the things after we lost that game is so many Cowboys fans that were like, "What is happening? The sky's falling." I'm like, I didn't even watch the game because I knew what was going to happen. I know we're going to go into the desert, that dark ass fucking stadium, right? Where it looks like they're playing at night with the street lights off. I knew we were going to lose, and so I wasn't worried about that game. I
Doesn't
didn't
look
feel
like
like
that
that
in
really
Italy.
had much to say about what Dallas was. The San Francisco game said everything, and it was one that we all kind of knew what was going to happen to, because Dallas is soft right now. They just are.
So you think that it's dark in Phoenix?
I think that the stadium is.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
but that's because it's a dome.
yeah. But like, there's other domes that are better lit.
Yeah,
It's
the
just
light.
not a well lit. Like when I watch that game, anytime I watch Arizona, I just feel like today here in Nebraska, it's overcast. It's been raining all day. I got a freaking grow light on so my plants can get some vitamin D today, right? And it's just that's the kind of feeling that the Arizona stadium gives me, just overcast and just and I feel like every time Dallas is there, they play like it's an overcast kind of game. They're just not 100% with it. So I didn't worry about that. It's a L, whatever. We're gonna take it and move on. But as far as the draft is concerned, yeah, I think we got a lot more physical. I think the Notre Dame linebacker, I watched even more film this morning on him. Man, that dude, he's something. He's I the people that I trust, some scouts online that I watch that I trust, Brian Broaddus. You ever read the Scouts Notebook from DallasCowboys.com back in the day? So Brian Broaddus, the scout that wrote that, is on
I know.
YouTube a lot, right? So I watch a lot of him, and he was saying that one of the things that he noticed in the film that Notre Dame used to do with that linebacker, a lot like they did with JOK, Jeremiah Owusu, I can't pronounce his last name. Anyway, he plays up in Cleveland with Myles Garrett now. But they took this linebacker and they had him playing safety at times. They had him playing nickel corner to come off the edge with blitzes, and they lined him up at the 5 and 6 technique sometimes to get him off the edge. And that's just not what he is. He's a downhill linebacker. And so when he's playing that downhill linebacker role, you can see his instincts are great. You'll even see him on film, right? Where let's say they're going to do some sort of pull action to the weak side, right? So as soon as he sees the pull action, he's literally turning and pointing to his weak side linebacker, flow that way, fill your gap. As he's flowing, he does a great job of keeping his hips square to the line of scrimmage so he can't get washed out of plays and he doesn't get tricked by the misdirection. Good hand fighter, keeps guys off of his body, off of his fucking legs with his hands. Good extension, great job of block shedding. He does come in high a little bit on tackles. I really like this guy. As you can see, I'm giving a whole report on him, right? But I really like him. He's a solid tackler. He does come in a little high, a little hot sometimes. But I would much rather have an aggressive linebacker than a linebacker that doesn't want to tackle you because his fucking neck's broken, you know? And we had 2 of those motherfuckers last year. Done with broken neck linebackers.
So can we, as we give a shout out to our new linebacker from Notre Dame, can we also give a shout out to the homie's son from Notre Dame winning the freaking Bronco Nagurski Award? Shout out to Xavier Watts. You
Yes.
you know
Yes.
that's Jeff Watts' son, right?
I do know that. Shout
Yeah,
out to Xavier Watts, man. Hell
yeah.
yeah.
And that's the homie.
Yep.
Like I used to do, well, I played Little League football with Jeff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you know how
Yeah.
tight me and fucking Jay were. You know, I hired
Yep.
Rome. Rome used to work for me, you know, the brothers.
Yep.
So that whole family I'm tight with. And then
Yeah.
when I did lawn service, you never went with me because you did lawn service with me, you know, a little bit.
Yeah.
But I used to do lawn service at Jeff's house. So I remember when Xavier was a junior and a senior at Burke, and he
Mhm.
was getting off. And like, you know, they knew he was going to go college somewhere. He was going to go to
Yeah.
Nebraska, or he's going to go to Michigan, or he's going to go to Notre Dame. But I just want to give him a shout out because it's like it's
Yeah,
dope
for
when you
sure.
see your homie. I remember when Xavier was fucking this big, bro.
Yeah.
So it's dope when you see one of your homie's sons or kids do some dope stuff. So I just want to
For
give him a
sure.
shout
Yeah.
out. I
Shout
feel like,
out to Xavier. Shout out to Jeff, man. Jeff's a
yeah,
good man. Good
I still
people,
talk to
dude.
his dad just texted me shit, maybe like 3 days ago, 4 days ago, his dad just texted me, Jeff's dad. I still
Okay.
talk to him like
I
that
haven't
whole,
seen him in a minute.
yeah,
Not
yeah.
since because he lived across the street from Donna V. So that was the last time I was over at
Ah,
Donna
he
V's
did.
house was the last time that I saw Jeff's dad.
You see, I used to always see him because I would hang out with Jay in Rome all the time. So I would
Yeah.
always go to the shop. Like I would always go pick them up from the shop, or I would just always holler at him, or he would always
Yeah.
come through to the McDonald's, you know, because I was the
Mhm.
GM and Jerome worked there. So it was like he would just come through and say what's up or whatever, or he's just his fucking yo, they got the coolest dad out. Like, you know, there's a lot
Yeah.
of
Yeah. He's
dads
good
out,
people.
like I'm gonna say this, don't look all funny, but your dad cool. You know what I'm saying? Like you know what I'm saying? You got a cool
Mhm.
dad. I feel the same way because you probably say the same. Your dad's pretty cool, but I'm like, you know what I'm saying? But look, nigga, though, the real Charles
My
Reed's
dad's present, you know what I'm saying? And especially as a black kid, sometimes that's all you can ask for, right? And if you
right,
got that much, then you got to
right,
count your blessings. And I'm blessed. My dad didn't have to be there, and he was. So I'm blessed that he was present. But
right.
cool. Yeah, you know, whatever.
You know, I get. Remember I told you I seen him because some people who are
Yeah.
watching this podcast, if you made it this far, you guys know I always talked about Two Cypher when I was, you know, on my other channel. Shout out to the other channel if you do, you know, looking for some music or something like that, some HD. Hey, you know what I'm saying? Come over there. We got music reviews, gear reviews, all that good stuff. But when people on the channel, they know Dub, to Cypher because he was in live streams and whatever.
Mhm.
But when graduation for, oh, in case y'all don't know, I'm gonna say this a few times in a few different podcasts. So to Cypher's wife, this is her brother. You know what I'm saying? So this is Tammy's brother, right? So
Actually, let me correct you real quick. I am something else. Additionally, Tammy is my sister. I got
well,
to make that point. I
yeah,
am an individual.
yeah. I don't mean it like that though. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
fucking
I
with
get
you.
it.
I'm
I got an
fucking with
older
you.
sister too, but
Yeah, I'm fucking with you. I don't have a. She's just my little sister.
right, right. But your nephew, um, when Trey graduated from high school, everybody came out there. So your dad was there. I gave your dad,
Mm.
I had a Houston Oilers hat because I'll wear a hat if it's not like,
I see
if
what you're doing. Yeah, it's
yeah,
match. I mean, the baby blue is cold.
well, not just that, but if a team doesn't, if a team doesn't play in the city no more, I can rock that hat. So if the Houston Oilers don't
Oh,
exist, I'm not fucking, what I'm saying, trading on the Cowboys, the
yeah.
Montreal Expos. You know what I'm saying? I'm not hating on the Braves. You know what I'm saying? You get where I'm going there? The
This dude
Seattle,
found a loophole to not cheat on his squad.
the
Shut the
Seattle
fuck up,
Supersonics.
man.
You know what I'm saying?
Ladies, y'all listen to this little schemer right here, boy. He gonna find a way.
Tell me
He
that's not
gonna
a fire
find a
way to
way,
want
boy.
to hear though from another team though.
He said, I texted her. I thought she died. I thought it was good to just fuck somebody. I was like, shit. She ain't reply in 2 minutes.
But I gave your dad
This
my
nigga said I'm cheating on my squad, but I'm not.
I gave your dad my Oilers hat, but he gave me this
Yeah. He
George.
has 1,000 Oilers hats. The fuck did he take that from you for?
I don't know, he liked it.
He took it just to take it. Stop giving that nigga shit.
He gave me a Georgia hat though. It was a
Did
fun
he?
Georgia hat.
Okay.
I rep the Bulldogs. You know what I'm saying? I live in Georgia.
Yeah.
You know,
How? That's not cheating on the Huskers?
I live here. I can't hate on Georgia. The Huskers are my number one team, obviously. I know there's a lot of listeners out there right now who are like,
That are confused.
we can't do this. But here's how I look at it, right? I grew up my whole life in Omaha. So I'm a Husker fan, I'm a Cowboys fan, that's just how I was born into. But I moved to Georgia. I can't hate on the Falcons and the Bulldogs because I chose to
You
live.
always fuck with the Braves and you always fuck
Yeah,
with the Falcons anyway, to be
yeah, I was
honest.
always a
Like
Braves fan. I kind of like watching the Falcons play. I
you
always,
well the Falcons had that vibe. They were black as fuck in the
yeah.
90s. And so Dion, Andre Rison, like niggas fucked with the Falcons. Like I wasn't a Falcons fan, but I fuck with them.
I used to always fuck with the Hawks. You know what I'm saying? Like I've always fucked
Yeah.
with Atlanta because I knew I was gonna move here. Like,
Mhm.
this was like my destination location my whole life. So like I can't hate on the teams in the city that I've always wanted to live in my entire life. I just can't do it. I
Yeah.
can't be here and like talking to Atlanta Falcons fans in the city that I chose to live in because I didn't have to choose to live here. I wasn't born here. So I
Yeah.
can't be here talking to other Atlanta Falcons fans in the city that I love and then be like, fuck the Falcons. It's all about the Cowboys, bitch. And I can be
I
like,
mean you could.
yeah,
You could.
nobody likes that person.
Hey, the I gotta say though, the verbal gymnastics that you just pulled off that was beautiful. That was beautiful. I gotta applaud you. That was
That
great.
shit beautiful, baby.
Nigga, he said, I can't in good conscience sit here in front of
Hey,
these good Southern people and hate on their teams.
right. You know what I'm saying?
These God-fearing Southerners.
Outcast is from Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? What I look like hating on Outcast.
Um, it's a leap. I'll let you have that one. I'll let you have that leap. That
I
was
was
this
gonna
nigga
wait
hating
for you
on
to say
fucking
something because
Andre 3000 and Big Boy now all of a sudden.
I mean they are Atlanta, right? And
They
since
are Atlanta.
Atlanta,
I don't know that you not wearing a Georgia hat is hating on Big Boy though.
no, wait, because Big Boy Outcast, they love Atlanta. Therefore, Big Boy Outcast equals Atlanta. Therefore, if you don't like the Falcons, you hate Big Boy and Andre 3000. That's the math, nigga. That's the math.
Ergo, you ain't black no more.
You hate
Turn
boy.
over your nigga card. You done. You're done, son.
Oh, is that guy math? Is that what they would consider? Is that what the fans would
That's
consider guy
dude
math?
math right there.
That's dude math?
Yeah, that's that dude math.
Oh, that's hilarious, man. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, back to the draft though. Like, before when we didn't get it recorded, we were talking about Michael Penix.
Oh yeah.
And I just wanted to say real quick, and I know that we had started to talk about the Cowboys thing now that I'm like running it back. I just want to say real quick about Michael Penix. I He is my favorite quarterback in this draft class. I mean, for all the great things that Caleb Williams is, that Jaden Daniels is, even Drake May, right? To me, Michael Penix, the way that guy throws that ball, it's such a pure, beautiful ball. It's a rocket when he needs it to be a rocket. He's got touch when he needs touch. You know who he reminds me of is Warren Moon. The way the ball leaps off his hand and the accuracy and the touch, it's such a catchable football. Never watch any of his receivers struggle to catch his ball, right? That fucker gets there and it sits there. Yeah, Warren Moon to me is my comp for Michael Penix, and I think that Michael Penix is going to be outrageous in a couple of years. I don't know how long Kirk Cousins is going to last there. He might be Tony Romo'd out this motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? The days are numbered as far as I'm concerned for
Uh, so,
Kirk Cousins.
so two things. Um, we talked about earlier, I wouldn't argue that Michael Penix could, you know what I'm saying, be the best quarterback in this draft. But I'm gonna have to go with Caleb Williams because
I don't dispute that. Yeah, that's the popular opinion.
the thing with Michael Penix is that obviously he's injury prone. So we have to see
He
if he's
hasn't been injured for a couple of years. It's been a couple of years.
if you're injured 4 out of 6 years, you're injury prone. So I mean, I get what you're saying. What have you done lately? He hasn't been injured
The
lately.
ACL, man. He had a couple of ACLs.
Shoulder
I can
injury,
live with that.
shoulder injury, both
Yeah.
shoulders. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So two different shoulders. So I mean, I don't think that they're injuries where they're career-ending injuries or nothing like that. I'm not going to
Mm.
say that I expect for him to continue to get injured, but that is something that you have to think about when you're comparing
Yeah.
Caleb Williams to Michael Penix, is that age and injury, in injury history.
I
Um,
think, yeah, injuries are unpredictable though. Like we wouldn't have predicted that Andrew Luck would have been out of the league in 5 years, 7 years, or whatever due to
so that
injuries
goes that
because he
goes
was
that,
such a hardy player.
that goes to the last comp that you just said to me earlier about when I was trying to compare the Lakers scoring X amount of point or being in the league, whatever. Uh, Same metaphor or simile or comparison right there. I mean, it's the
I'm just
same.
taking a quarterback that we never thought had injury issues and who ended up being out of the league. And I just think that injuries can be unpredictable. You're right. You do want to take them into account, but I think Michael Penix has just had a couple of injury-free years. And so I don't think, I mean, to be selected in the top 10, I don't think it was because it was top 10, right? Where did it go? 9?
8.
8? And so I just don't think, I think a lot of maybe even just the Falcons thought this way, but it was the same way that I thought, that it just wasn't enough to keep me at the quarterback position.
Well,
If he played running back, wide receiver, maybe those injuries, but I think quarterbacks, they keep them so healthy anymore. I don't know. I
let me
was okay with it.
let me say this though. I honestly thought, and I know there's nowhere of me saying this on tape. I thought the Falcons were going to draft Penix the whole
You
time
did. Yeah, that's right. You did say that earlier. And then
from
you got the Maroma Dunze pick too. Like you should have fucking played the lottery that weekend.
no, because the Bears drafted a Dunze.
Oh, right. The Bears. Why? I
Right.
forgot that was who you called too. Yeah.
Okay, but this is what I thought originally though. I thought that Penix was going to go eighth, and I thought that Adunze was going to go ninth to the Bears. I thought that shit was going to happen before the draft. Before at all points in times, I thought that they were going to draft Rome Odunze. I even thought there was a world where the Bears could trade back, draft Marvin Harrison and Rome Odunze, and then keep fucking Justin Fields. But I
This
always
dude's trying to play Madden, yo. You crazy.
Yo, tell me that shit wouldn't have been fire though if them niggas ill. You know what I'm saying?
Hey,
But
part of me was like, trade that number one pick back, get you Marvin Harrison and just load that roster up. But
right.
I
Um,
mean, I get getting Caleb Williams. Like you have a generational talent, you got to get him.
hold up. But I always thought that they were gonna get Michael Penix, right? I thought Atlanta was
Okay.
gonna get Penix. And then
Mhm.
and then Atlanta traded for Kirk Cousins And I was okay with that because I'm like, Atlanta has a team
Did they
that,
trade for him? I thought he was a free agent.
oh yeah, he
I
was
thought they just signed him to that
he
big
was a free
deal,
agent.
100 million guaranteed.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
was a free agent. So he was a free agent. They signed him, but I was okay with that because
yeah,
I watched probably 16 of 18 Atlanta games. And then the two games, I probably watched part of the game, but I had to go live stream because I normally live stream at 2 o'clock on Sundays. So I might have missed part of it. So I basically watched part of every Atlanta game this year, every game. Even when Cowboys play, I still have the Atlanta game on a laptop or some shit. I watch Atlanta football. They were a quarterback away from being a really good team. You know what I'm saying? Like I
yeah.
feel like all they need is a quarterback. Like when you watch ESPN and you hear a lot of these analysts talk about they should have drafted a pass rusher. I wouldn't disagree with that because
Yeah, they needed a pass rusher for sure.
I wouldn't disagree with that because they went and got Kirk,
Yeah.
but their pass defense isn't bad. They just don't bring pressure. They have great cornerbacks, they have good safeties, they defend well in the pass game. They just don't bring pressure. So I get the wanting to bring pressure because then that's what sews their whole defense up. So what I'm getting at with this is that all that they needed was a quarterback. I feel like now that they have Penix and they have Kirk Cousins, even
Mhm.
though it's going to be a huge cap hit because Kirk Cousins, I think they said it's only 2 years, it's only $100 million, 50 million this year, 50 million next year that are going to hit the cap. But I feel like if Penix does Romo him this year, because we don't know if Cousins is coming back at the beginning of the season, so he might get
Mhm.
Romo before the season even starts. But
Yeah,
I feel like it
yeah.
could be worth it, even if they trade Cousins next year, as early as next year, because we all know Cousins is getting traded. So if they trade
Mhm.
Cousins as early as next year, I think they can get a second round pick out of Cousins. And so if you can get a second round pick out of a second or first, you might even be able to get a first because if a quarterback gets hurt and they need a Kirk Cousins to depend on, to if it was a situation like the Jets this year, I think the Jets give up a first round draft pick last year if Kirk Cousins is available. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So if it's a situation where you can get a first or second round pick from Kirk Cousins, who was just a free agent, you still have a quarterback. Now you can get a piece that you can add to your team. I feel like it's going to work itself out. I feel like that shit's just going to work itself out if it makes sense. Either Kirk Cousins is going to start for 4 or 5 years, or Penix is going to take over and they're going to get a draft pick or two for Kirk Cousins, and it's going
Mhm.
to be worth it. Even though they got to eat $50 million in dead cap space, you still get a first or second round draft pick where you're only paying 5 million, and it's worth, you know what I'm saying, a
yeah,
all pro, whatever, performance from a player. So I don't know. That's how I
yeah.
feel.
I think you're right. I think you're spot on there. I think it was a great selection. You have to plan for the future. Kirk Cousins is a 50-year-old quarterback with a shredded Achilles. Like I hope that it works out for Kirk. He seems like a great guy,
I like
right?
Kirk has
Yeah,
grown.
but I think
I
that
like Kirk.
Michael Penix, yeah, I think Michael Penix with the youth that they have at those skill positions in Atlanta, he's going to be really good. He's going to be really good. I don't know if he's going to be the best quarterback out of the draft. I think he's my favorite. I think no shade at Caleb Williams at all. I just love the way Michael Penix throws, and I like the way that he plays. He kind of reminds me of the way that I drive.
I
This is
watched.
very like I drive fast. I'm in and out of traffic, but I'm very intentional about everything that I do. Like I'm not just kind of out here willy-nilly, right? And so when I watch Michael Penix navigate the pocket, he's very intentional about the things that he does, right? He's not moving willy-nilly like Caleb Williams does or like Patrick. Well, these guys, they move and the way that they move is just so reactionary and so free, right? Michael Penix movements is like, hey, I'm gonna move 3 spots over here to get to this landing or this throwing spot, this throwing platform, so I can get this ball to where it needs to go. And so again, no shade at Caleb Williams and certainly not at fucking Pat Mahomes. I just think the way that they move is different, and I trust when Pat Mahomes was coming out of college, I didn't trust him as far as the way that he maneuvered pockets, right? And you can't discount the fact that that dude went to Andy Reid. You just can't. Um, I don't know that Caleb Williams is going to get the same sort of tutelage
See,
that Pat Mahomes got, right?
that's
And not to say that he's going to be bad because of it. I just think, like, for me, Michael Penix was my favorite just because the way that he moves in the pocket, it tells me that he has a plan every time. And when I see Caleb Williams, I don't always see a plan. I see effective results, but I don't always see a plan. And I hope that in Chicago, they're able to get him the teachers in place that help him have that same kind of progression that Pat had because of Andy.
So I guess when I think about Caleb Williams going to Chicago, what gets me is that Chicago hasn't developed a quarterback in my lifetime. And so
Facts.
what I'm
Facts.
saying, like the only quarterback that Chicago had that was even decent that they drafted was Jim McMahon. But is that because they have this great defense and Walter Payton? So you got to put seven in the box, eight in the box. And then they have Willie Galt, you know what I'm saying, who could take off the top. But regardless, they haven't done good with any other quarterback they drafted. I still, to this day, don't think that Rex Grossman was a bad quarterback, but there was no quarterback coach there. Nobody to develop him. McCown
Yeah.
wasn't a terrible quarterback, but there's nobody there to develop him. Yeah, you get what's my boy's name? Who's all of our hero from Denver that they had at quarterback.
Oh, Tim Tebow.
No, not Tim Tebow. Remember they got rid of Tim Tebow. No, they traded Kyle Orton. Um,
Oh, Cutler.
yeah, Jay
Talking about
Cutler.
the Bears quarterback, Cutler.
So Cutler is the best quarterback the Bears have had in my lifetime, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he was drafted by Denver and he was developed in Denver. And so that's the problem with Chicago is that they don't do a good job at developing quarterbacks. And I feel like Caleb Williams might get hurt from the perspective of they don't have a great quarterback coach. They don't have an offensive mindset. They don't have all this stuff to put him. Yeah, they've got the pieces, but you don't have the system to make them successful.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good point. I always feel like, regardless of the position, it's going to be fit, right? Like, where did you go? What are they asking you to do? What are you being taught?
Right.
What's the environment that you're in? What's the culture? I don't think any of those things can be discounted, particularly when you're talking about a quarterback. Me, if I was running a team, I am not one of these throw your money at a quarterback because you got to have a quarterback kind of guys. I think you could build your team, and then when you find the right quarterback, you pay that guy. But until you find him, it's like it should be like every other position. You are trying to upgrade that position until you found one that you're comfortable is going to be able to lead you where a quarterback should lead you, in the same way that you would replace a left tackle, if until you find a left tackle that's going to lead you in the way that you expect a left tackle to lead lead your team, right? And so, when I look at people like when I look at a player like Caleb Williams and I see he's going to Chicago, those concerns that you have are legitimate. They are absolutely legitimate. And I think we'll just see. And maybe they've got a plan for him and it's a good one. I hope it is, because he's a very talented player and I want to see him succeed. But I felt that way about Justin Fields. I felt like
Yeah.
Justin Fields is a talented player. I didn't even know dude could run like that. Who knew he could run like that before he got to the league?
Yo, I'm gonna send you this highlight, one of his highlights in college from Ohio State, where the running back is running like they're running an option and he pitches it out to the running back and the running back takes off. And then all of a sudden you just fucking see this nigga Justin Fields in the picture blocking motherfuckers so the running back can get the touchdown. I gotta show you that highlight. It's one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life. I ain't never seen a quarterback pitch out the option and then it's like an 80-yard touchdown run. And you see
I
the
know the play.
quarterback. What's that?
I know the play. They were during the draft that he got drafted. They were
Yo,
playing that thing on repeat.
ain't never seen nothing like that in my life. Ain't never
Yeah.
seen nothing like that in my life.
But
Never.
like we knew he was athletic, but I don't know that I remember anybody saying that he was this dynamic runner and that's why he's being drafted.
Yeah.
He was one of those quarterback club. He was right there with Trevor Lawrence, right? Like they were 1 and 2. He was supposed to be a really good passer. And I wonder again, he goes to Chicago and he's running for his freaking life.
Well, see, I live in Georgia, so I knew he was like a runner like that, because he played for Georgia
Yeah.
before he transferred to Ohio State.
Okay.
Knew he was I knew he had that athletic ability,
Yeah.
just that was part of when they recruited him. That's what they were talking about. So I mean,
Yeah.
I knew that, but
But I don't think that's why he got drafted number, was it two? When he went number two to the Bears a couple years ago?
I thought he got drafted like number 10 or something.
Was it 10?
Let's see.
Um, yeah, and so wherever it was that he got drafted, I think, it was more the promise that he had as a passer, but it just never developed in Chicago. And so it doesn't offer a lot of confidence that we're going to see that level of development in Caleb Williams. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, Caleb Williams comes in a ready-made, bona fide playmaker, we assume. Um, but then there's the growth aspect of it. How does he grow into becoming an NFL quarterback? And all of those Pat Mahomes plays are great, but you still have to be able to make your ABC throws, right? You got to make your ABC reads, and you got to be able to make the easy throws. You got to be able to hit check downs. You got to be able to hit crossers. You have to be able to hit, the timing routes on time, in order to have consistent long-term success in this league, because everybody's just too talented. And if you think that you're going to be Pat Mahomes, there's a whole long line of, you know, baby Jordans, right? Like
Just,
the guys that show promise and skill, but just for whatever reason don't live up to to that same kind of level.
Justin Fields was the 11th pick. So I was close.
11,
I was close. It was
yeah. So he's a first round quarterback. But I guess to my point is, when he was drafted, the promise was that he was going to be a skilled passer, or he was going to develop into a skilled passer. And that just never happened. And I think that's a Chicago thing, to your point.
right. And then here's what I hate, and I know it's what like a lot of people are talking about, but I hate the fact that they didn't even give this man a fair chance. So it's like,
Yeah,
you know,
it's
you
tough.
you get he doesn't have a line. He has the worst receiving core in the league in 2022. In 2000,
Chase Claypool. What they give the Steelers a fucking second round pick for that guy?
yeah. So,
Crazy.
but he didn't even start, and so that's how bad that line that receiving core was. Is that they had to give up a second round draft pick to get a receiver who was Chase Claypool. That's how bad that
And
receiving core
yeah,
was. So it was bad. It was bad. I had a
it was
graphic
bad.
earlier, but it was like I can't name none of the dudes who were on that receiving core in 2022, and the line was awful. So he's running for his life. Y'all let David Montgomery go. And so then last year, he's got I can't remember my man's name, Herbert. Herbert gets injured, and then you guys got whoever the running back is who played for the fucking Carolina Panthers or whatever team it was. He wasn't very good. Wasn't very good. That was the running back. Yeah, you got DJ Moore, but the line is still sketchy as fuck. They're
Yeah,
Mooney catching shit. Komet's okay, but you don't give him Keenan Allen. You don't give him a
right,
Tuesday. You know what I'm
right.
saying? You don't give him a line. They went and got who did they get for running back this year? DeAndre Swift. So now you got a running back too with Herbert and Swift. So it's like Caleb Williams has all the fucking weapons. This dude has everything, like
Yeah,
everything, right? It's just I just don't feel like they did right by Justin Fields. I feel like they could have. Think about if the Bears would have chose to move back in the draft, get a first round pick for next year, draft Marvin Harrison, draft a Dunze, and then still have 40 or $30 million to draft the best player, or let me run that back. Sorry, I'm fumbling here. And then they still have $30 million or $25 million that they paid Keenan Allen to pay somebody else. You know what I'm saying? Who's younger. So now you pick
yeah,
up a 25 or 26-year-old free agent, and you have this monster team, and then you have a free agent for next year, and you can get, two first round draft picks. You know what I'm saying? You're set up and you're ready to go. I think that they still have a second round draft pick from Carolina next year. So you're going to have two first rounds, two second rounds. I don't feel like they did right by Justin Fields. They could have done so much more to put the roster into a even better position to win. So we'll see if it pans out. I don't have that answer. I'm rooting for Caleb Williams. I want to see the dude do well.
Yeah.
I was born in Illinois, so I root for Chicago teams. Not really the Bears like that, but I don't want to see him fail because I was born there. So um,
Yeah, I just think when you're talking about front offices that there's accountability that we just don't have, right? So let's say they make those trades and they sound great, right? Like I had half a mind to stick with him too and make a trade back. I don't know that I would have doubled down at wide receiver. If I got Marvin Harrison, I'm probably going to address another part of my team. And not go full Matt McMillan. Was that
but
the GM from Detroit who drafted those receivers 3 years in a
every
row?
every year,
Anyway, my point though is like for them, I think if they pass on Caleb Williams becomes a star, Justin Fields flames out, right? Like your job's gone. Also, and you're not getting another one. Also, maybe because this Ryan Poles has been their GM for a few years, right? And so maybe this is his way. You draft Caleb Williams, now you buy yourself another couple of years. So they want to see how Caleb Williams pans out, right? I think there are just a few other variables in play. I don't want to say that it's unrealistic that they would have stayed with him, but the writing was on the wall. When you're talking about these guys and keeping their jobs and legacy and all that stuff to pass on, what some people are calling a generational talent. There was just no way they were going to do it,
you
even if it made sense.
what I think is rough is that this is like a or topic for another podcast where we talk about salaries in the NFL or whatnot. But I
Yeah.
think I think the biggest point really, what I feel bad for Justin Fields is what really was the nail in the coffin was the fact that you're gonna have to pay him 55, $60 million in 2 years. And so
Yeah.
after this season, you have to give him a contract for 60 million. And it's jacked up because do I think that he could be a great quarterback in this league? I'm one of the people who absolutely believes that he could be a great quarterback in this league. But is it fair for the Bears to have to pay him $60 million? Nah, fuck that. It is fair for them to have to pay him $60 million if they did decide to keep him for the simple fact that they didn't decide to put the pieces around him earlier.
Why do they have to pay him 60 million?
If they would have kept him, it would have been fair.
I don't think you do that anymore. I think that's an old way that the league somehow got themselves trapped into. I think it's a stupid thing. I think anybody that pays a quarterback that much money that's not basically Patrick
No,
Mahomes,
no, no, no,
who
no, no. What I'm saying is, let me run that back to make sure that we're on the same page. So I'm saying
Mhm.
that they have a couple of options. You know what I'm saying? And the second option would be, well, then the Bears have to pay him $60 million. And is that fair to the Bears? And
I
then
guess I don't agree with that assessment. They
no,
could pay him 25. That's what Geno Smith gets. Geno Smith gets like 30 mil. Like they don't have to pay him 60.
yeah, but they're
He's
not,
not a top of the market quarterback.
but he's not okay. So here's what happens. Here's what happens. They do have to pay him 55 or 60 because here's what happens. Then you say, no, we're not going to pay you that, and we're going to franchise tag you. And then when you franchise tag them, the franchise tag is worth 54, $55 million. And
Yeah.
so you have to pay him 55 million to $60 million because that's what the market
But
makes.
it's different paying it 1 year versus locking in a contract with an escalator,
It's
right? To where in 3 years you're caught onto that contract for 85 mil dead cap money if you let him go. That's not quite the same. I see what you're saying though. I just don't I would have looked at it just to play
no,
not
no,
devil's advocate, but like I don't if I'm negotiating and I decide to keep him, there's no way he's getting 60. You haven't put up $60 million worth
okay.
of
So
I'll
so
give you 30.
so
That's it.
rewind it back one more time. So the point, that's still not the point. So you drove,
Yeah.
that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is is it Chicago's fault that they have to pay him 55, $60 million and he hasn't performed the way that they want him to perform? That's the point. So it's about it is should they have to pay him that because he didn't perform this way yet, but the onus is on Chicago because Chicago didn't get him the weapons until whatever years. So that's the point I was trying to make.
Yeah.
It wasn't that every team should have to pay or this or that. I'm just saying, do
I
we
see what you're like to your point. I see your point. I just don't agree with the number. I don't think that they would have been bent over to give him that franchise tag. I just don't think that he has the like Dak. I feel like Dak kind of has leverage to kind of work with the Cowboys and try and force their hand a little bit. But even they're like, we're not gonna pay it, bro. Like, I just don't know that that number is the same as it was 3 years ago. But I get like what your point is, whether it's 55 million or 30 million. Did they do this to themselves by not putting the pieces around him to be successful, to where you can then look at him and say, I'm confident giving him 50,
Right,
60
right,
million
right.
because he's done these things.
You never
Yeah.
give them a fair shake because, like,
Right.
when you look at when we look at these teams and we look at these quarterbacks that do well after their first, second, third year, that it's either because like the franchise already had pieces in play or they ended up drafting and putting pieces in play around them. So like when you look at like a Patrick Mahomes, they already had pieces in play. They were already a playoff team. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like Alex Smith already had him in a good position. They had Tyreek Hill, you know what I'm saying? Travis Kelce. They had pieces in order for him to do well. When you look
Mhm.
at Joe Burrow, you know, they have Boyd, they have Higgins, they have Chase. So even after they got Burrow, they continued to draft weapons. You know, they had a
Yep.
running back. You know, when you look at players like my boy over Tua, Tua got receivers. He got two receivers. They continued to give him pieces, and so
Yeah.
now he's going to do well.
And they've been aggressive about it. And that's important. Like, to your point, like, you have to be aggressive. And I think Chicago tried to be aggressive. They just weren't good at it. The Chase Claypool trade was fucking foolishness. And I don't know why they
Awful,
did that shit.
awful, awful.
And
You
I don't know if it was a two. It might have been a four now that I'm thinking about it. But
know,
either way, it was too much. It was too much. And then, they did go out and get DJ Moore last year. They gave up a pick to get DJ Moore, right? I feel like or no, no, no. They got him
trade that was
in
part of
the
the trade.
pick. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So I think they tried some things. They just didn't try enough, and it was too little, too late. Unfortunately, it's a fucking cutthroat ass business, and
30, only
Justin
30
Fields.
jobs. Only 32
Hmm?
jobs. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and Justin Fields got kind of the short end of the stick. He was working with amateurs at the time, and I don't want to I don't want to say working with amateurs. What I will say is that front office didn't do him any favors. They did him, to your point, they did him no favors, and now he's the one that's paying for it, which is unfortunate. But they did a good thing by him, sent him over to a great franchise in Pittsburgh, um, and hopefully, for Justin Fields' sake, he can re-spark some magic in his career.
Yo, so
Hopefully.
looking at uh Chicago's Bears, their 2020 receiver stats, right?
Okay.
2022. So this was not this year that just passed because they did make a move and they did get DJ Moore. But dude, they had Cole Kmet was their top receiver with
Yeah.
50 receptions for
Yeah.
554 yards.
That's
Mooney
great.
Mooney was their second receiver, right? I still think Mooney's overrated. I feel like the
I
Falcons.
agree.
I feel like the Falcons gave him too much money. They should have just
I agree.
drafted Dunze.
Those are
Uh,
great draft for wide receivers. Just pick one.
I would have got a Dunze though. If I was the Falcons and I was drafting fucking, you know what I'm saying, eighth, I would have got a Dunze. If we were gonna get Kirk Cousins. And then they had Amon-Ra St. Brown's brother. I can't pronounce his first name, E. St. Brown, but he's doo-doo. They
Yeah.
had they had
Equanimous.
Yeah, Equanimous. Yeah, Equanimous. That's his name.
Yeah, he went to Notre Dame. I remember watching his Notre Dame tape, man. It was like watching a giraffe run down the field, man. That dude's legs are crazy long.
And then they had Pettis. So Dante Pettis was there. So that's the receiving core.
It
That's
was
who this
bad.
nigga had to throw the ball to.
And
Equanimous,
that's what I'm saying when I say amateur. Like, how do you roll that roster out week one? How does
right,
that happen? Like, you don't get any receivers? None?
right, right. Fuck it. We're just gonna see what this.
Fuck, man.
We ain't got a line. We don't got a
Yeah.
receiver that can get any separation. But we're gonna see what you know. What I'm saying we'll see what these niggas do.
Yeah.
They, they might be all
And
right.
how did they get that pick, the Chicago 11 pick, to pick up Justin Fields? Did they trade up for that?
I think that's what the record was.
So they haven't had, like, when I look at like San Francisco, right? Like, they gave up all those picks to move up to get Trey Lance. right? So, and San Francisco might not even be a good example because they're just a good football team. But I wanted to give like Chicago an excuse. Like, why didn't they draft receivers or prioritize a receiver in any way? What did they do to get Justin Fields? Did they cripple themselves somehow? Like, what the fuck happened? I don't understand how you can roll that roster out week one if you're not trying to tank,
Right. And
you
then
know?
if you're trying to tank, it's not fair to for a man to lose his job because if you got to
But
do your job, because you
yeah, but
did not do your job. It is literally your job to put your players in a position to win. So I was somebody who was a GM for how long, Perm? For decades. You know what I'm saying?
mhm.
I was a general manager. So just like a general manager at football, it is my responsibility to put my fucking managers in the best position to win. So I'm not out there running shifts. So like a general manager is like, a general manager in the sports. It's like my shift managers and assistant managers would be my assistant coach or my head coach, my assistant coach, whatever. So like they're calling plays, they're running the floor, they're doing all this shit. It's my job to make sure I hire well. So that's drafting and all this other stuff. It's my responsibility to make sure we train well. It's my responsibility to make sure we have all the tools into place in order to make sure that my coach can win, in order to make sure that my players can win. And so if I don't do that, then I need to get fired.
Now you have to, yeah, and you're right. I would have to assume there was some tanking early on, right? Because you don't want to be good when you have a young quarterback. You need to stack assets.
Right.
And then I think they tried to win a couple years ago and they couldn't, right? And then I think they tried to win again last year and they just couldn't.
I think I
Um,
think they tried to win in 2022 with that shitty ass roster I just named. I
yeah,
think
and well, I don't know. I think that might have been a tank job where they're just trying to get some more assets. And we'll never know what the reality of it is, but I think the one thing that we can rest assured is that they didn't do a good job. They did a bad job, and now they have a new quarterback, and their old quarterback plays for a new team. So
I
yeah, it
guess
sucks for Justin Fields, but maybe it's better for him now that he's in Pittsburgh.
yeah, I mean I think that's good for I wish Pittsburgh would have kept the receiver though. What's my boy's name? The receiver they traded, Deontay Johnson. I wish they would have
Oh
kept
yeah,
wish they would have kept him.
he was having some locker room issues though. They couldn't go through a AB situation again for a motherfucker who's not as talented as AB.
You think you think he was the issue and it wasn't the other nigga?
Pickens.
Yeah, you don't think Pickens was a
Oh,
lot?
Pickens is talented though.
Yeah,
Not that Deontay Johnson's not talented, but
he is
like
talented.
Pickens a game changer. He's a potential Pro Bowler,
Deontay Johnson
and
is a route runner. He's a fucking machine
he's
out
a
there.
slot receiver who had the drop skis a few years ago, and he doesn't really score touchdowns. And he was late to practices. I heard that he was like a locker room cancer. Like during the middle of the season, I want to say that they held him out of a game. Like there was a lot of drama with Deontay Johnson. And if you're great, you can be a problem. If you're not, you
Gotta
better
go.
not be. You better shut the fuck up.
All right, guys. So that's what we got for you in the first episode of Something on Sports podcast featuring Big Perm or Squoze or uh
Aaron, whatever.
Aaron, your mama's fondler. You know what I'm saying?
Wow. Wow.
All right. I guess we'll
You
holler at you.
wildin'.
I'm
Hey,
some
y'all have a good one.
holler. Peace.